And these are those three things. Number one, we were made to give. And we are not truly alive at any time unless we are giving. God has said to us, I have made you rich, I have made you powerful, I have made you great, and the reason I did that is because I want you to give. And I believe in the depth of my heart that all Christian people have a powerful desire to give away everything they have, so long as they know that in the giving they are going to change the world. That in their giving they will be fulfilling the words of Ephesians 2:10, that God has made us for a life of good deeds. And the good deeds are out there waiting for us. There are times when we succumb to the temptation of taking. We were not made to take. I think that in the Sunday school today, the children are going to be listening again to the story of Zacchaeus, a person who was obsessed with the question of what can I do, what can I take, I want more and more, but in the taking, Zacchaeus found himself broken. Until Jesus came to him, and when he called him down from the tree and sat down at table with Zacchaeus, Jesus convinced him that his life was not about taking, but about giving. And he reached down into the depth of Zacchaeus' soul and said, Zacchaeus, recognize who you truly are. And somehow, by the power of God's Spirit, Jesus was able to convince Zacchaeus that life was not about taking, but about giving. And after being in contact with Jesus just for those few minutes, Zacchaeus stood up and said, I will give back everything I have taken wrongly. I will give back more than I have taken, and if anyone needs my help, I will give it. On that day, Zacchaeus discovered the wonderful answer to what is the purpose of human life. It is to give. And I believe that each one of us in our hearts wants to give, and give thoroughly, and give generously. The second thing that human beings want, and what can be fulfilled in the will of God, is this. Human beings want to make a difference. We want to be out in the world in some way that we will change the world around us. We are inundated on a daily basis with news of war and famine and disease. And sometimes we feel helpless against those things. But we who are Christians must never feel helpless. God has given us the power to change the world by our acts, by our generosity, by the wholeness and blessedness of being God's church. We can make a difference. And all of you know that we at St. Andrew's make a huge difference in the world through our local missions and our national missions and our international missions. We have fed the hungry. We have clothed the naked. We have given water to the thirsty, housing to the homeless, healing to the sick, peace to those in times of war. And when we do those things, then we are truly and wonderfully alive within the will of God. I think that our relationship to God is even so powerful and so great that we do not just want to give, we do not just want to make a difference. I believe that Christian people are willing even to give their lives giving of their lives, they are changing the world and doing something great and wonderful for God's creation. We want to give. We want to make a difference. We are willing even to die for God. These are the things that are way down in the depth of our soul, and yet sometimes they get covered over by petty little things like fear of the future and insecurity and misunderstanding. And what I hope to do for you today, through the words of Jeremiah and the words of Paul in Ephesians, is to draw those deep and powerful things up from inside of you so you will say, yes, I want to give all that I have to change the world and to make a difference for human beings. I want to matter. I will even give my life for God, so long as I know that in the giving of my life, I will change the way that the world is. Living is giving. And we are only truly alive when we are giving of ourselves. Sometimes we forget as a church that our purpose is not just to gather here in worship or to be a community together. Those things are beautiful, and if we experience the presence of God in them, all the better. But we have forgotten from the word of Jeremiah and of Paul that that is not the end of our purpose. Our purpose is to save the world. Our purpose is to change the world from its course of destruction and sin. And Jesus says we can do it. You know that in 2 weeks' time I have challenged all the families within this congregation to give an offering of $300 to something that we call the Legacy Campaign. And I know that sometimes when we do stewardship things like that, people look down and say, oh, it's just another stewardship thing, and I'm tired of those things. I had one of the members of the church say to me this week, and I know that person is watching today, so they're going to love me quoting them. They said, Mark, you want my regular offerings, you want my legacy offerings, and you want me to buy you lunch? Will you ever stop taking from me? And I love that person, so it's okay. With something like the legacy, it's not a stewardship campaign. The purpose of that legacy fund is so that we will be empowered to change the world around us. The priorities that we have set forward are 3 simple little things. First of all, ministry to children. We live in a world where the church is under threat, where nobody is teaching children about Jesus or the Word of God or the will of God for their lives. We are growing up with a generation of children who are not going to know Christ unless we as the church redouble and strengthen all of our efforts. And we are going to do that, again, because of the things that Paul and Jeremiah have said, because deep down in our souls, we want to give, we want to change the world, we want to make a difference, and we will give everything, even our lives, to do that.